I'm Jim Kunkel, and welcome to Coatings Talk. Today, I've got a great story we're going to cover. It's Gym to Giant Champion Specialty Services. So we're going to have a real candid conversation, and it's going to be very inspiring for you. And joining me today is Kyle Hough, who's the Chief Executive Officer with Champion Specialty Services. Kyle, welcome.
Jim, thank you. I appreciate the time and look forward to the discussion.
Perfect. Hey, for the one person out there that has not had the opportunity to uncover and understand exactly what Champion Specialty Services do you want to give kind of a brief overview of the company and what you guys do?
Sure. We are, at heart, we're a blast and coatings contractor. We're celebrating our 20th year in 2026. Over that 20-year period of time, we have diversified into things outside of the coatings world, but still within construction. So we've got a large national industrial bridge, tank, crane, you name it, painting business. Very strong in New York City. We touch mostly the coasts, East and West Coast. That contracting business has a few divisions. One is a fireproofing division. We have an epoxy floor and soft floor division. We have a commercial painting division that all live under the CP Champion Painting Company. We have a specialized roofing business that primarily works in regulated space such as nuclear power, pulp and paper. We're talking dirty, difficult roof jobs, not commodity type of projects. We have a nuclear services group that we refer to as CSS. That group performs maintenance and modifications contracts. We do outage work. That group does have a nuclear coatings team that specializes in nuclear coatings because, as we all know, they're different, right? They electrical, mechanical, specialty welding, roofing, sheeting, siding, staffing. So they're a full service commercial nuclear and DOE contractor. We Again, like I said, in a 20-year period, you can get yourself into some stuff, right? We also do demolitions. We have a demolition group, and that's industrial demolition. So we do knock buildings down, but typically if they're an admin building or a support building for an industrial facility. And that's, again, the dirty, hard work, the stuff that takes a little gumption and some intellect to go attack is where we fit. The harder the space, the more we want to be there.
Yeah, my experience and really knowledge of Champion has always been, I kind of look at it this way, grit, growth, and culture. And that's really what makes Champion a champion in the industry. So I greatly appreciate this opportunity to talk with you. But before we get into really some depth and detail related to, the vision and strategy and everything, I'd like to talk a little bit about the origin story because I think that was a fascinating story, and it was aspects of your origin story when it comes to Champion I did not really know 100%, but as I understand, there was a chance encounter or a meeting of two people actively working out in the gym. What kind of sparked that from from gym to Champion?
Sure. It's there are many rumors floating around, and I've heard quite a few of them. Most are pretty close. We're not the type of men that embellish things, but the roots of this organization really started in fighting gyms. The name is not. We're not your Champion Glass or Champion, dent removal. Our original founder had 12 world titles, 6 of those in Muay Thai kickboxing. So he has moved on. He's still a dear friend, and we still work with him. My current partner, Carlos, also strong martial arts background, and we train together, right? So we would, MMA at the time was a big deal. I'm not an MMA guy. I was a kickboxer and a boxer. I retired at 43 from professional fighting, and Raul Yopes is still my dear close friend. So, a little bit about the origin story. We went off and had this struggling small business that we were self-funding, and we would train at different gyms all over South Florida and mostly Miami. And one of those gyms was a really great family gym with just an amazing culture. The people were just always happy. It was a family event, which is a stark contrast to professional fighting gyms, which is a bunch of guys just trying to climb a ladder and just knock each other's blocks off, right? So this was a refreshing place we would go. And the owner of that gym was my dear close friend, and I call him my brother from another mother, my business partner, Carlos Hernandez. So him and I met in a gym setting, and there are interesting things you find out about a man, when you're trying to knock each other out, right? You understand their capability for hard work. You understand their capability and their pain threshold. You know what's in somebody when you get on the mat with them. And you hear this from wrestlers, you hear this from boxers, kickboxers, MMA guys. You know somebody. And before we knew each other professionally, we knew each other on the mat. And that relationship has grown. It is, ask anyone who's had a partnership, it is really difficult to find a good partner, especially a partner you're with for 20 years. And I always tell people this, and they're astonished. Carlos and I have never raised a voice at each other. We've never had an ill word towards each other. And we've dealt with the really, really difficult times growing this business. We sold an airplane to make payroll one time. We've done everything it takes, and we're proud to say we've never missed a payroll. But to not have an argument when you have such difficult financial times speaks to both of our character and our relationship. So the origin of this organization and how we had come together is really a big part of today's culture with, nearly 2,600 employees, right? From 0 to 2,600 employees, you can imagine the growing pains and what we had to do. So, we're really proud that we met in the gym and we've carried those martial arts fundamentals into our business.
I think that is super critical. It really think of really the dedication that has to be done to become a champion level boxer, but also too the discipline and everything. So there's so many business lessons you learn in that sport, but also too when you are as a professional fighter, and that also like you said, it carries into the culture, but also in the vision and strategy. I think what did you see in the coatings and services market that others didn't see that kind of make you say, this is what we want to do?
It's a complex question, but I do have an answer. So I'll try to keep the answer a little simplistic. So I've grown up in the coatings business. I started as an apprentice in DC 21 in Philadelphia. Came through the apprenticeship. I got a state registered apprenticeship program, which some of those have disappeared. Cut my teeth in mostly refining in South Philly. Today, I'm still a dues-paying member of Local 806 in New York City Bridge Painters. So I still hold my book. So my roots are really from the tools. I came up through the tools. So I've had the unique opportunity that not many professionals in our space have had, where I was the apprentice through my position today and everything between. So I've had to learn finance, I've had to learn admin and, safety, quality, all these disciplines and understand how to trust those folks and get the best people. But to your question, as far as what I saw that maybe was a little different than some other folks, I looked at an industry that really had a nuanced set of players, right? You had bridge painters, you had industrial guys, you had floor and commercial type of folks. You had people that really specialized in refining. There was a time where guys that did elevated tanks, that's all they did. Then you had your water and wastewater guys. There were, few contractors that both geographically and within the coating space could touch all these industries and offer these services. And that scared me a little bit, right? Because at the time, I left the organization that I kind of came up with, which is a amazing group of people from Pennsylvania. They've been in business since 1948. That's the Zarnis family. I owe them a great thanks for helping me get where I am today. But I didn't want to be a one-trick pony that if the funding mechanism, dipped, my business would dip. Right. You see, like if DOT doesn't have any money or have any spend that year, you have a bad year. So I didn't want to be kind of nuanced into this one very specialized piece of the coatings industry. So we attacked everything we knew how to do, and we went and learned everything we didn't. We hired the best people in each of those spaces. And if you look at our book of business today, we're contractor record on the largest bridge structures in the country, East Coast to West Coast. We've installed the single largest safe span deck in safe span's history.
Wow.
We've touched every major bridge all over the country. We are today the largest bridge painting contractor in New York City. So the bridge world and the infrastructure, stations work, we love that space. Also, we went and did all the epoxy floor coatings, urethane cement at the Sphere in Las Vegas, right? And you can't find too many bridge painting contractors that go out and do work like that. Our DoD business, which was developed by my brother, is global. We've done work, Poland. We have an office in Guam. Understanding that military specification and how to manage it, how to run those projects, installation all of our own scaffold systems, because we just kept, single point of failure for us oftentimes was our scaffold supplier. So we took it on ourselves, right? So now we do access. We're not a scaffold contractor, but we do it for ourselves, right? So the idea was diversification of geography, diversification of service offerings, diversification of customer base, and primarily understanding the funding mechanism. So I say this to folks oftentimes, and they think I'm talking about the person that writes the check. I'm not talking about the person that writes the check. I'm talking about where they get their money. And a good example, a few years back, we have an annual leadership meeting, and I'm with our BD team, and we're talking about targets. And one of the big targets they wanted to really spend a lot of time and money on was EV battery plants. And I said, hey guys, have you looked at the funding mechanism? Like, yeah, Ford has Blue Oval, and we got all. And I said, no. I said, look around your neighborhood. How many of your neighbors are buying electric cars? Because I live in a place where should be and still is a popular method of transportation, right? I live in the city. My neighbors aren't buying electric cars. I said, they are the funding mechanism, the consumer. Because if the consumer doesn't buy the cars, the manufacturers won't build the plants. So I try to think about things from where that dollar actually comes from to fund the work we're going to perform and its capability to be turned off, right? So I always say we like the 3Ds, DOT, DOE, DOD. We know where that funding mechanism comes from, our tax dollars. So many of my competitors, I think, aren't drilling down that deep into the industries and how to look ahead and how to project what's coming next and then being prepared for it. I think oftentimes our industry is very responsive. A bid comes out, let's go bid it, we get it, we'll go do the job. Champion, we don't think that way. We think about what's coming in the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and then we apply the proper amount of resource based on what we see. And that fundamental, where does the money come from? What is the funding mechanism? I think is what makes us a little bit different. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, the strategic moves that you've done over the years really is, kind of fueled rapid growth for Champion. Next question I have for you, when you have a rapidly growing company like Champion, how do you balance kind of, let's say, ambition with operational discipline?
It's not easy, right? So I've surrounded myself with some people that govern me a little bit and wind me back. But also, we talked about fighting, right? A big part of fighting is patience, right? A second really critical part is timing, and the third critical part is distance, right? So in the boxing world, I've got to be patient, I've got to have good timing, and I got to manage the distance. And I think about business that way. I've got one of my executives, and the first time he said it to me, I said, I'm going to steal it. So I'm going to steal it right now. A good idea at the wrong time is a bad idea, right? So, we've recently opened operations on the West Coast in a really strong way. We've got a great team out there. We've got a gentleman, Jeff Jones, who's running that business for us. I've wanted to be in California for a lot of years. If you sit on the East Coast and watch certain news channels, you'd think this state was on fire and going to fall into the Pacific Ocean. It still has, I think, the third largest GDP in the world. I'm not sure how, as a business owner, I'm going to ignore that. So I've had it in my mind, and I've been plotting and watching, and I've been licensed out there for about a decade to perform work. But It was a great idea. Timing was wrong, so it was a bad idea. When timing was right, and we apply the right patience and the right discipline to it, we've been a great success. And I'll make a prediction here for you. We'll be the largest painting contractor, industrial painting contractor on the West Coast by the end of 2026. And you can come back at the end of 2026 and we'll go get all the analytics to see if I'm right. But we're going to get there, and we're going to get there very quickly because of the amazing team that we have on the West Coast in both our north and south locations.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take you up on that. And I believe you are 100% going to achieve that. And it really comes down to, we talked about, vision, the discipline, also strategy. But when it comes to leadership synergy, you have all these different roles played out. And you said you hire people who are going to be top of their game. They are leaders themselves. How do you kind of, in your leadership team, how do each of the roles kind of complement each other and kind of everyone's rowing to the same direction, which is a profitable company doing very well?
Yeah, that's a difficult task at times because many individuals that have that strong leadership passion are also problem solvers, and they get an issue, they want to take care of it, they want to deal with it. So we first have to establish roles and responsibilities. And that doesn't mean that because something comes across your desk, you're not responsible for it, but you may be responsible for getting it to the right person. And that's about respect. If my job is XYZ and you go take something on its mind, you're showing me some disrespect. It's my job to perform that, not yours. And if I'm not performing it well, I can hear about it from below the chain or above the chain. To me, if I'm not doing my job, everyone's got the right to call me out. So to manage and balance, we have a large executive team. I mean, we have a really large executive team, and we'll probably hit $500 million in revenue in 26 is what our backlog projections look like. And it takes a lot of folks, and it takes departments we thought we may never have. So part of it's just, I start everything with an org chart. I believe that, understanding someone's role, and then once we build the org chart, we build job descriptions, roles, and responsibilities, and then we speak to them and we coach to them. And we, when we do have disputes, which it happens in any organization, the idea is to talk about it, right? So the way we talk about it is we remind everybody in the conversation, but sometimes it's me and two executives. Professionalism, respect, and kindness are free. Use the hell out of them. We're not going to yell and scream at each other. We're not going to curse at each other. We're going to listen to each other and really listen. And we're going to resolve things. And that stays in-house. It's the Champion family. We have that dirt. It's our dirt. We'll figure it out. We don't spread it to the world. So we're not some happy-go-lucky group of folks over here that never have conflict. We're a bunch of hard-hitting, run at it real fast type of people. But we got each other's back, and we protect the culture first, and everything else will fall into place.
Perfect. I like how you have the aspect of trust, communication, also shared values. So let's go ahead into culture. The thing, based on my research and again my knowledge of Champion, you utilize culture really as a competitive advantage, and the company does have a really incredible company culture. How it was obviously built intentionally, but what are some of the aspects of your company culture that really kind of set you above everyone else?
There's a couple things, and most of them come back to really core values that we've all learned and we all know, and we just don't apply them. And when I was early in my career, I heard someone say, it's just business, or some movie line or something like, it's just business. I think to be an entrepreneur is one of the most beautiful gifts our country gives us, and to hide behind it to be a lowlife is not its intent. It's just business doesn't mean you can do things that aren't right. So we don't say it's just business or that's business. No, it's either right or it's not right. And if it's not right, we're going to address it. We make mistakes. Well, that's how we approach how we conduct business. And I got a couple real easy sayings that I give to my team oftentimes. I say we're successful because we only fear failure, right? You can only fail if you make a mistake and don't learn from it. So we're not a punitive group of people that says you made a mistake, you're fired, or we're ruling through some kind of dictatorship. We're not. There has to be a boss, and that's okay, but it doesn't mean the boss is always right. And, I think there's another, something I tell my team is, if you kind of live by 3 rules: pursue joy, surround yourself with good people, and do the right thing. Those are business practices that we should be talking about, right? I didn't mention revenue. I didn't mention EBITDA. I didn't mention risk. I mentioned how to be a good human being. And if you do that and you preach that to your team, everything else will just come. It'll just come. That's what we've done. We've built a culture of people that believe, as leaders, our people shouldn't wake up in the morning and dread going to work. If you've ever pulled a blast hose up on a bridge, it's got 250 foot of line, and you're blasting with 120 psi for 10, 12 hours a day. Work is hard enough for our guys in the field. And if you've ever sat in an office for 10, 12 hours crunching numbers and your brain's cooked, we don't need to increase, we need to decrease. And by doing that, you get more productivity out of people. People buy in. People love the company they work with. They want to show pride. And that's really the secret sauce.
I like that. I like it because kind of what you've done is with culture, with the company culture, you're really kind of driving the performance of everyone. Obviously, it's really good on retention because, again, you're recognizing the contribution everyone's doing, and also to recognizing when they're, let's say, overworked or they need some support. And then the other thing too is it helps your reputation out there. Like you said, you're going to tackle things a little bit more strategically, and this way you don't get yourself in trouble because you're doing something that might be at odds with an owner or the industry in general. So very good on the company culture. So the company obviously has been on rapid growth and everything. So when we look at, a company that's scaling, the goal is obviously not to lose the soul, the original intention. What are some of the challenges that Champion has overcome to maintain the culture you have during all this rapid growth?
A big part of really the maintenance of a culture is first to identify and recognize what it is, and then to ensure that everybody in your organization understands its value. Oftentimes, a culture can just exist. Well, if that's the case in your organization, it's existing by luck, not by design. Our culture exists by design because we cherish it, and we don't put revenue ahead of our culture. We don't put net profit ahead of our culture. We don't put our culture is our culture. And sometimes you have to understand that comes with a cost, time, finance. We've had to let people go that were amazing at what they did, but didn't fit the culture. Negativity is easy to spread. Positivity is hard, right? If you're the one negative person in a room, you can turn 10 kind of positive people. It's usually not the other way. Someone comes in that's bubbly and positive every day, and you got someone sitting there that's grouchy and I didn't have my coffee yet and leave me the heck alone and all that stuff. We try not to think that way, right? We try to, think that a positive outlook and a positive attitude will lead to positive things. So it's about understanding it, respecting it, and then protecting it, which we do. I told you we have an annual leadership meeting where we bring all of our leaders in, all of our admin folks, and they come from all over the country. And we always have a topic we talk about. Last year's topic was the life cycle of a job. All of us have had a foreman that thinks they're the first start. I'm on the job, I'm going. Well, they forget we had a BD effort for 2 years. Our estimating team bid 15 jobs that they didn't get, and then, we rely on the foreman now to protect all that hard work we did. So we wanted to explain both, the sales aspect, the estimating aspect, the project management aspect, the back of house, right? So if you think about, there's like a ring with 3 arrows, BD and sales, estimating, and project management. Then there's rings around the outside that touch everything: admin, finance, safety, right? So that was our topic, but really what we were also doing was getting everybody in one location to make sure that we as leaders are feeling the temperament of the culture, to make sure it's healthy, and to also indoctrinate. I hate to use that word, but I'm going to indoctrinate some of the new folks, because every year we grow every year. I mean, it's major growth. So every year I say everyone put their hand up that's new to a leadership meeting, and it's a substantial amount of people. They don't believe it the first year, but they're the best coaches on the second year of leadership. So that's part of that kind of, spreading the culture, is to say, I'm going to earn your trust. I'm not asking you to trust me right now. I'm asking you to listen to me. Spend 12 months. At the end of 12 months, you're going to be telling the new person, hey, this is a great place to work. These people really care. They champion professionalism. We're competitive as hell. I can tell you, I've never seen a big job I don't want, and I've never seen a little job I don't want. Well, the estimators know they put a job in front of me. I'll say, I want this one. Yeah. They're like, you want everyone. Yeah, I'm competitive, right? If you're not, what are you doing, right? That's part of being an entrepreneur. You better be competitive. If you don't care about losing a job, you're doing the wrong thing, right? Go figure something else out. But that culture that we touch every year has changed over the years. As you grow and as you scale, little stuff becomes big stuff. Things you shouldn't have counted, you have to count, right? So that's part of it as well, right? Like if you think about, maybe you got a good bottle of wine that tastes great at year 5. Well, it may taste really great at year 20, right? Because you've taken care of it. If you stop taking care of it, maybe at year 20, it tastes like trash, right? A business is like that. You can't just stick it in the cellar and think it's okay. You have to mentor it. You have to take care of it. Bottle of wine, you stick it there. Let it sit for 5 years. It'll be great. Businesses don't work that way. You need to mentor them every step of the way. And those cultural changes that we've had came from bringing on great people and great teams. The changes have been positive because the team has grown, and we've been very selective about who comes into this organization and can alter the culture. So, again, surround yourself with good people, right? My 3 tenets, that's one of them.
Yeah, I like the idea of, bringing everybody together, because what it does, it breaks up any potential silos that could silently kind of been created. The other thing is everyone's tied to the mission. They understand exactly, in order for, let's say, for SpaceX, to get a rocket off, there's so many different teams and sub teams and individuals that are working in a direction, what's called the mission, to get that rocket to lift off. It's the same thing when it comes to Champion. Everyone is moving in the right direction. They understand their roles and responsibility, but also too, they support each other. So I think at annual get together, that makes a lot of sense. So let me ask this on the legacy and impact, really kind of, let's say, looking at, down the road here. Obviously you're building a legacy, and Champion is making a big impact out in the industry across so many different sectors. For you, what are you most proud of when it comes to Champion?
We talk about, head count, and I sat on some trade boards and health and welfare funds, and they talk about belly buttons. Call it heads, call it belly buttons, use whatever term you want. Let's just round up and say we have 25 employees. I average a family of 4. Some have 1, some have 8, but let's just say the average family is 4. I'm thinking that the decisions that we make as a collective and what we do here affects 10,000 people every day. And when you look at the population of a state, a country, a continent, a planet, 10,000 people is tiny. But I challenge anyone to name me 10,000 people that they affect. Right? So we as a collective, every single one of us affects the other 999,000. So I'm most proud of the people that have come through the Champion system and have really grown to be amazing professionals. I'm proud of the senior professionals that chose to come spend their time and be part of the Champion team. Our New York executive, he's our president of Champion Painting. Legacy monster. This guy, he's Tony Marashek. He's Mr. New York, right? He's done every bridge in New York City. Born and raised in New York City. This is a guy that didn't need to take a chance on me, and he did. And I'm thankful for him doing it, and I think he's thankful for me. He's blossomed. He's amazing, right? To see someone that's been in the industry for over 30 years leave a place he's been for 30 years and come bet on me, that I'm proud of that. I'm proud of those moments, and conversely, I'm proud of the apprentice that comes and works for us and gets a chance like I got to change my life and to really find an industry that if you work hard and you've got some gumption, you're willing to learn, you can rise through the ranks. You don't have to have a piece of paper to do that in our business. And I think that our organization is a great example of that.
Yeah, perfect. And then earlier, kind of to tie something related, you kind of talked about. We all recognize, you, I, everyone watching this right now recognize that companies have to generate revenue and they have to be profitable. But sometimes too many companies focus too much on revenue generation and profitability, and they overlook a lot of the other things and they struggle. They should be successful, but they're not. And you had mentioned about, you look at revenue is important, profitability is important, but there's a lot of other things that are really critical to become a successful business. How do you kind of define success beyond revenue?
Well, I define success generally as a man as happiness, right? Happiness is the true gauge of your success, but your question is specific to business, right? Revenue and COGS and net profit and EBITDA to me are byproducts of other things. So those other things are what I say is my goal is to have a perfect business with the knowledge that there's no such thing as perfection. So I'm chasing the most perfect business we can possibly build. And what does that mean? That means that we've got an ERP system that is tight, everything runs well. We have a department called SID, Systems and Infrastructure Development. I gave them a very simple task that is most likely the most complex thing I've ever asked a team to do. I asked them that when there's a keystroke, the first keystroke of any information in this business, that keystroke touches everything it has to for life. Meaning you enter it once. Now I know we'll never get there, but the fact that we have that goal on something that most companies think is insignificant, just the fact that we have the goal, that's everything, right? So that type of mentality and thinking that I didn't say to them, help me generate greater revenue. I didn't say to them, help me increase net profit. I said, reduce my keystrokes and reduce my error, because I know that'll increase my net profit. But that wasn't the reason. The reason was I want a perfect business. That's my goal, a perfect business. The byproduct is revenue and net profit. But it's not what I'm chasing. I've never chased revenue. I've never chased net profit, though I know they're critical to the mission, right? I know the metrics behind revenue and net profit are a key component, and they are measurable to success of an organization. But what they don't measure is the capability for long-term, consistent generation of a strong net profit. The systems and what we do are going to offer you that. Does that make sense?
It's perfect. It's a great definition of the success. And really what it comes down to is success is really kind of important for individuals and for companies, themselves. And it's really not a generic type of definition. And I loved how you really kind of laid that out. So right now we have challenges that exist in the coatings industry and some of the services industries where, we are really trying to attract the next generation, those young professionals to step up. Some of them will become entrepreneurs on their own, right? And run their own businesses and become maybe future champions and things like that. But also a lot of them will become leaders that will work for you and for Champion. Do you have any advice for that young professional watching this right now of how they can prepare to be the best leader possible?
A few pieces of advice. Lots of people from our generation have a ton of negative things to say about the current generations and the youth of today. I have a different perspective. I have so many young people, not just in my personal life, but here at Champion, that are just impressive. They're intellectual, they're hardworking. All the things their generation is challenged with, they all have it. The one thing they do share, though, is they've got zero patience. And I think it's the result of growing up with this little screen in their face that is instantaneous, boom, instant gratification. For me to become an executive in this business took an ungodly amount of work. It took a massive amount of sacrifice. It took mountains of discipline, and it was very difficult for me to become an executive. What I think an executive is and what an executive means to me in business means that you understand at least some part of every department. You and I can have a financial discussion. We can talk about GAAP accounting. We can talk about all the OSHA regs. We can, I'm a MCI and I've got a bunch of quality related certificates. We can talk about estimating protocols, you name it. I can speak to every bit of our business, both in our non-nuclear, nuclear side, our demolition side, our coating side, all of it. I can speak to all of it. The youth of today, they get into any business, forget our business, get into any business, put your damn head down, look around, read the room, see who's working the hardest, figure out what they're doing, and be patient. Learn your craft. Be an expert in your craft. They say it takes 30,000 hours to call yourself a master. That's 30 years working 40 hours a week, right? These kids come in and they want to be the vice president in 3 years. I love your ambition. Don't lose your ambition, but have respect for those that came before you and what they did to get their title, and understand what you're saying. So patience is important. Just like I said, it's like a fight. If I don't have the right patience, I'm gonna get knocked out, right? If I run in and just start swinging, I want to get caught. So that's one bit of advice I think for the youth that's coming into this space, and that's more often at office admin, finance executive, right? But let's talk about who makes us the real money, which is our field workers, our craft workers, who are actually making us money. Everyone else is a support team to them. We support the guys out in the field. It's not the other way. So I've seen many businesses where folks come into the office and there's a level of contempt or disrespect for the people out doing the hard work in the field. If you're a younger person coming into the service business, understand you're in the service business, and the most valuable resource your company has is its people. You must protect it. You must fight for it. And if you do that, even in an organization where no one else does, you're going to rise, because those people out in the field doing that hard work, putting it in every day, the ones that got a sore back, the guys that work overtime every week, they'll have your back. And, don't forget what our people do out in the field, how damn hard it is, and that they're sacrificing their body, their family lives, their personal time to go do what they do. So have appreciation for where we actually make our money. And a lot of the youth, they just don't understand it because they've not seen it.
Yeah, very good advice. Without kind of revealing any type of company secrets or anything, kind of what's next for Champion Specialty Services?
Yeah, well, we've had a few acquisitions, so we're going to work those acquisitions. One of those acquisitions is in the T&D space, so mostly storm-related, lineman and power work. Again, back to that idea, we're going to work in power generation, we're going to work in transmission, we're going to work in distribution. We're going to touch every space there because there's some synergies that just make sense. So another diversification for us as a whole. That's a new acquisition. We're really excited about it. We want to continue to grow our core business, which is the blast and paint business. We're going to open some offices in strategic locations, and we only open an office if we have the right person. Period. It's not about the location; it's about the person. Without the person, there is no location. So, if we get the right people that we're hunting in the right places, you'll see some more Champion offices pop up. But we've got a lot ahead of us. We have a ton ahead of us. We're going to continue to grow. We think currently we may be one of the largest privately held coatings companies in the U.S., maybe in the world, and we're going to keep doing that. And that 10,000 number, I'm hoping to be 20.
Oh, that's great news. That's great news. Growth is so important. Kyle, kind of closing out this interview and this episode, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would want to leave with the viewers?
Well, I think we touched a tremendous amount on culture, business and philosophy and what we think. And I heard something recently that really steps outside of that. And I'm sure many of your listeners and yourself, you may have heard this before, but I heard it recently and it touched me a little bit. This guy said, in 100 years, you're going to be dead. Everybody you know is going to be dead. Every vehicle you've ever driven will be scrap metal. Every home you've ever lived in, someone you don't know will most likely live in it. And none of your relatives will know anything about you. Nobody will know anything about you. And I think it's important to humble yourself at times and remember that business is critical. It helps you develop lifestyle. And I'm not a person preaching work-life balance. I work constantly, but take some damn time for your family. Take some time for yourself. In this blast and paint business, everybody works really, really hard. We're all competing. We're all cutting G&A. We're all making it, it's a competitive world. just think about in 100 years, none of that's going to matter. So take some time for yourself and your family, and you'll be a better executive if you're an executive. If you're an apprentice, you'll be a better apprentice, I promise. So that's the last thing I have for you, Jim.
Perfect. Hey, from gym champions to industry champions, like I said earlier, Champion Story really is let's say it's a masterclass in vision, grit, and culture. Kyle, thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time with me today. I know everyone's busy, and I appreciate you spending some time with me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this interview. Make sure you have a good rest of your afternoon, your evening, or morning, no matter where in the world you're watching this interview. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.